Ahmed KARZAI. His brother, in fact, I hear, is one of the biggest heroin traffickers in Afghanistan.
No, he's not one of. He's the Wally KARZAI.
That's amazing.
Is identified to me as the largest single kingpin in the drug business, mostly because he has the ability, through the diplomatic protection and the connections he has with the government, to move large amounts of opium gum, out of the country. The Northern Alliance, the guys that we dropped $60 million on to fight the Taliban that did so well, basically are all now in the drug business. They were shunned from politics because they were old school warlords, and they immediately got into the drug business, and we helped finance it because we gave them the millions of dollars.
So what chances? How would you advise a young DEA agent as to targeting KARZAI's brother, as opposed to Willie Bobo selling $10?
The Canadian military was stationed in Kandahar to replace the Brits, and they said in a closed meeting to Hamid KARZAI, either you fix this guy or we'll fix him for him. KARZAI went to his brother, and I talked to another Pashtun warlord who was at that meeting, and Wally KARZAI said to Hamid KARZAI, you're a pussy, you've always been a loser, get out of my face. I mean, just like Scarface, just like the movies, with Pacino. Yeah, it's the same kind of cocky attitude, like, hey, get out of here. Because he's the real power. He's got more men under arms than Hamid KARZAI does, and he's got more money.
You people out there listening, you're paying taxes for this every year. Do you know that my rough calculation is that we've paid, as a nation, over $1 trillion in taxes, $1 trillion in taxes under the banner of war on drugs since 1971, when President Nixon declared war on drugs. $1 trillion, folks. And here it is. Ahmed KARZAI's brother, our guy, our main guy in Afghanistan, in the nation producing the most heroin on the face of the earth, and he's untouchable.
Poppygate, the U.S. policy on controlling heroin.
Since the U.S. overthrew the Taliban government of Afghanistan in 2001, the country has become a narco-monopoly. Over half of its GDP is now derived from the illegal manufacture and trade of 93% of the world's heroin. Quote, the potential windfalls for criminals, insurgents, and terrorists is staggering and runs into the hundreds of millions of dollars, end quote. UNODC Executive Director Antonio Maria Costa said in a statement released in Brussels. Of course, this windfall is made possible by prohibition policies which effectively turn flowers into guns. In Afghanistan, drug war subsidizes the purchase of weapons used to kill American and Allied soldiers. According to the Washington Post, there have been more than 100 U.S. military deaths in Afghanistan this year, the deadliest year since the war began. Civilian deaths have reached an all-time high of 5,700, and, quote, ground hard-won in combat has been abandoned and reoccupied by Taliban forces, end quote. On October 25, 2007, senior British statesman Sir Paddy Ashton told Britain's Daily Telegraph that the Afghan war has been lost. Quote, we have lost, I think, and success is now unlikely. I believe that losing in Afghanistan is worse than losing in Iraq. It will mean Pakistan will fall, and it will have serious implications for the security of our own countries and will instigate a wider Shiite-Sunni war on a grand scale, end quote. Oxfam International warns that urgent action is needed now to avert a humanitarian disaster in which millions of Afghans face, quote, severe hardship comparable with sub-Saharan Africa, end quote. Putting things into their proper yet absurd perspective, for every American arrested on marijuana charges, U.S. client state Afghanistan turns out another 2.25 pounds of pure heroin.